sing during this. Can you just start belting some shit out there,
We
Seg?
we could. We
Can't you
could.
give me a little serenade? I mean, why am I going to be on with an acapella bomber if I can't get some love, dude? Give me some serenade.
Well, Seg and DR, I'll leave the singing up to you guys.
Come on, boys. Give me
Well,
some.
we've experimented with that,
We can play some
and
videos.
it doesn't work very well.
The acoustics are a little banged up.
Yeah, there's a delay. This medium isn't designed.
Not with those. Not with the honey in your
Same time
voice,
singing.
boy. Don't act like you ain't got it.
Also, you got two baritones here, so it'll be terrible.
Well,
Don't
Don't
act like
hear
I
any of
know
the
the
good stuff.
difference.
not to interrupt, but we're live on Facebook for
We're live.
episode 17. We are here with Andy Renda, who has been gracious enough to join us on this May 6th, 2020, my birthday. Andy,
Happy birthday.
thanks for being here. I was with you on my last birthday last year as well, where we were not sheltered in place, where we were drinking copious amounts of wine. So 2 years in a row.
We'll make a habit out of this whole thing, huh?
We can do that.
We can do that.
It's my favorite kind of birthday present. I went out and bought a bottle of wine for Brits, and now I'm gonna drink it.
What a giver. What a giver, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the way we operate. And we'll just run around and talk about where we're at and what's going on. So as always, I'm in Los Angeles. DR, you're home. Go figure.
Chicago.
I'm home up here in Detroit. Got a nice day outside today, but I was indoors all day recording some music. So it was nice to look through the window and not see snow.
I'm coming to you from my dining room here. This is just my new dining room table. I thought you guys might like it. No. Coming from Napa, a little back shot of the new place, our new project, The Find in Danville. So this would be our private room where the magic happens when they let us do it again.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be. I need to get out to Danville and see this place because
It's gorgeous.
Too.
It's really, really beautiful, guys. I'll have the whole group in.
So tell me a little bit
of the new place, our new project.
Tell me a little bit about it. What's the
the new spot? Myself and two partners, Louis Kelly and Jason Moore, who you guys know from winemaker owner of Modus Operandi. We have been working on this for, like I said, a little over a year. It's called The Find, a Wine Country Experience. So the idea behind this was we had kind of talked about what happens when we take wine country on the road, right? Having the tasting room in Napa for years, but Napa's changing, tourism's changing, right? And we've always wondered, all right, so what about taking this sort of multi-winery, wine bar kind of hybrid to people, to the people instead. And it's really a proof of concept for us. This is the first, and we hope it's one of many. Southern California, Mr. Brits, is the next stop.
All right, I like it.
So, and basically everything that we sell, all the wines we sell, all the retail items, everything is wine country based. So it's all the best of the boutique. There are about 16 brands. All very similar to the Wine Thief and real limited production wines, hand selected by us. And again, we have Kohler chocolates, which I don't know if you know Kohler chocolates out of Yountville. Chris Kohler, one of the top chocolatiers in the U.S. From the olive oils to just anything that we do, it's kind of an extension of wine country. So not just for us, anybody can build a wine bar. But it's rare to have all vintner owned, brands, all boutique, and have the owners, very much, on hand. One of us or 2 to 3 could be in the space at all times, very hands-on. So we're excited about that. We think that it's really touched wine country. We work directly with the brands. We don't go through distributors. We're not just buying out of books. We're going right to the source and getting the best of wine country. So Unfortunately, we opened on March 6th and we were closed on the 16th, which it's not epic timing. A year and $1 million and 10 days open, but chomping at the bit to keep it going. We have been able to send wine around the country. We're building both a local club and a national wine club. So we think this is something we can really grow. We're just sort of waiting for them to release us so we can get back to doing what we do.
And what I love about what you do, and we talked about this when we did a little Dealer's Choice app and you joined us, was you handpick everything that you bring in. So the Wine Thief and at the Find, which I'm sure you do collectively with your partners, everything that comes in there, you handpick, you hand select. If you don't like it, it doesn't taste great, you are definitely not bringing it in. So, tell us a little bit about that process. You don't have to tell us who you turned down, but what's the percentage of things that you get pitched and you actually bring in?
Well, I mean, I guess I would use the Wine Thief as the original example, seeing we're going on 5 years. The Wine Thief, in about 5 years, we've tasted over 200 prospective projects. We've brought on 3. So that kind of gives you an idea of how selective and meticulous we are. And I think with the Find, slightly different on how we do business. It's a little different as we took it to this kind of suburban area. But as far as being selective, it's the same model. We can procure whatever we'd like, and we have the ability to do acquisition. We can build cellars. We can actually find things that aren't on our day-to-day list for people, the way we can kind of purchase and resell wine. But most importantly, same message, which is no vanity brands. And by that I mean these are passion-driven people, like-minded, and I get often asked if it's, a hobby, because when people hear how small production our wines are, they're like, oh, so it's a hobby. And I always kind of laugh. I'm like, like I said, if paying your mortgage is the hobby, yes, it's every bit a hobby for me. Yeah. I mean, all the brands we have, this is their world. This is how they put food on the table. They pay for their kids, music lessons. How about that, guys? Little, pitch.
There we go. Nice.
But I mean, that's really what it's about. We have the ability we're not interested in those brands where, somebody is just wanting to be part of the culture, but not really driven by, what we do day in and day out.
Question for you, to that point, and then we'll get into some wine tasting because that's what we're here for.
Seriously, my glass has been empty way too long.
Yeah, 100%.
So you get in there. I don't know what you're doing with an empty glass, but
we could pour. Keep talking. So
let's pour. Let's pour.
Oh, you guys wanted to do what? To give the green light? I poured a while ago. I figure if I had to hang out with you guys, I had to loosen up.
What are you pouring, Fritz?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about what we're pouring. And I think in honor of Andy, it's my birthday, but being a guest to honor, we're drinking either your wine, AJ Pierce, which Segi and I are drinking, and Andy, you're drinking, or wines that you carry at the Wine Thief exclusively. Yeah. So DR's got a little OPC there.
A little OPC. What vintage?
This is the Napa Valley 2015.
Okay. Yep, from last year.
I got the 14 Syrah.
Oh, Sugarloaf. I am jealous. I actually would trade with you right now. I don't even have any of that in the house.
Get some.
This is my last one, I think.
And I want to tell you something special about that vineyard. I'm glad you're trying that, because 14, that was the end of the Syrah from Sugarloaf. You're actually having the last vintage of Syrah planted in that vineyard. Unfortunately, a new vineyard, company came in, management company came in, and as they do too often, they tore the Syrah out to plant Cabernet because it's more economic. So that was an incredible vineyard that they have now regrafted to Cab.
Yeah, and we've had some epic times tasting with you. We were talking about last year a little bit. Seg wasn't able to join us because he was having a kid. But you know, we all sat in your big room there at the table. You know, I finally got everybody to quiet down a little bit so you could put on your show. And you know, we tasted some epic wines. You know, of course, AJ Pierce is always in the mix. So since three of us are drinking that, can you tell us a little bit about that, and then we should smell and taste.
Okay. And you have the 15, David?
Cab, yeah.
Do you have the Masumi or the Mount George?
Assuming.
Okay. The 15 Masumi. Great. So AJ Pierce is a collaboration between myself, AJ, and Jared Pierce, partner and winemaker here. Started the brand in '07. The brand has predominantly been all Coombsville, which is southeast Napa, that we've talked about before. So became an AVA in 2011. It's the most recent AVA named in Napa. So cooler climate, longer hang time, slower maturation for the fruit. It's a very distinct area. Last place, the marine layer burns off every day. A lot of great Cabernet, and I also love the Syrah from this area. I would think those are the shining kind of stars. It's become a really popular area to get fruit, although it goes way back in Napa in history, some of the top producers sourcing from there. But before it had its own AVA on the bottle, I think that for the consumer, right, it didn't have cachet. People didn't know about Coombsville. You didn't really talk about it as you did Oakville or Rutherford or Stag's Leap. But I think now, probably in the last 5-6 years, probably been one of the hottest regions to source fruit. So that was the start of our brand, '07, and it was started with Syrah. Actually, that was the first thing we ever made out of there. And you know, and now we've done 13 harvests, and kind of amazing to think 13 harvests later,
Wow.
we're still kicking around with it. We've expanded the brand. We do 2 single vineyard cabs, a Syrah from Coombsville, and now we've added a Sauvignon Blanc from the beautiful Kick Ranch Vineyard in Santa Rosa, the Fountain Grove district, as well as we'll have in a few months, you'll see, which I really want to share with all of you, is the first inaugural release of Tempranillo from the famous Stagecoach Vineyard up on Atlas Peak, which is one of the most coveted fruit sources you'll find. So that we're incredibly excited about. That's a rare domestic Tempranillo like this. I don't think anyone grows it like this. So that is on the horizon.
Love it. I mean, this is, the nose on this thing is incredible. I've only had it open for 25 minutes, and it's rocking.
Well, I just want to say cheers, guys. Thanks for having me. Salute.
Cheers, man.
Best to you and your family. And
Happy birthday, Britt.
Mr. Britz, happy birthday.
Thanks, buddy.
You look
want to
a
dive in?
day older, 39 or 40 or.
Fritz, get in there and tell us what you smell and taste.
So, I'm getting blue fruit here. So blueberry pie, baking spice. Yeah, that's what I'm getting initially.
And is that the cab that you're drinking, Britt?
Yeah, that's 100% Cabernet from a vineyard called Masumi in the Coombsville area. Actually, I was turned on to this particular vineyard through a couple other friends in the industry. One, Mark Jessup, who was getting fruit from there, but also the rows next to me were Julien Fayard, who we've talked about, who makes the Perlu in the Lepige. Julien, for years, been making Cabernet for another client right out of the same vineyard. It's about a 12-acre parcel, private property tucked back, not something you'd really know much about. And I can tell you 15, the wine you're drinking, David, is really small production. 2015 is interesting. It was really low yielding, but we got, the fruit we got was of high quality. So that's
I noticed right away when I opened it, was just a beautiful deep purple color there. It's just that's why I opened the window to try to see if any of that color would translate. It's kind of tough probably, but it's
you can't read the
really
newspaper.
beautiful.
You can't read the newspaper through it.
You won't see anything through that. It's fantastic.
That's gorgeous. You know what's interesting on the front palate, I was getting the first sip. It was like a black licorice sort of flavor. Tannins are present, but not overpowering. You feel the alcohol on it. I think I saw it's 15.1. So got a little kick to it, but not anything that overwhelms.
Yeah, you're kind of right on with that. It's certainly, we allow it to ripen. Not every vintage is that, percentage alcohol. It varies, but the thing that makes Coombsville so interesting when we talk about being cool climate is we can push the envelope with phenolic ripeness. So we talk about surety of skin, seeds, right? We can really let that hang time go because we don't lose acid. Because it's a cooler climate, you can push the level of sugar and maintain a higher level of natural acidity, because we like to make high acid wines that are very food friendly, wines that are real age worthy. So it's got that natural power. It's not really, it's only about 40% new French oak. So the power you're getting from that wine is more fruit tannin and that kind of acid that holds through the wine. You mentioned spice, Mr. Britz, and that's really present in all of these wines, I think.
Definitely.
Again,
yeah.
You get that combination of a little bit of, so with the dark fruits you were talking about, you also get a little of that red fruit spice that kind of kicks through, and you call it baking spice, sometimes almost, what we'll say, holiday spice, right? And they definitely, it definitely kind of pulls through the wine. It's a ribeye steak kind of deal. It is your birthday. I mean, we throw a 3-inch thick ribeye on the grill for you, or what,
Let's do it. It's present. It's to your point, that baking spice, that holiday spice. It's there.
Only 140 cases, a big whopping 6-barrel production.
Gorgeous. It's a gorgeous wine, man. And Coombsville is just, Coombsville's rocking in general.
It is. Unfortunately, too many people know about that, and now the guys with way too much money have moved in, and they're let's say they're bidding it up for the little guys. I liked it a little better when we were kind of a little more unique to have a Coombsville-driven label. I mean, there are several others, and some that far predate us, but it's now becoming the spot where a lot of higher profile brands, with a lot of cash, want to come in and offer a lot of money for the same fruit that we used to get a slightly better deal on, being a little more obscure. Now it's fruit that maybe at one point was 6,000 to 6,500 a ton is now 10,000. That changes the production costs pretty dramatically. So that would be the only bittersweet part of it. The fruit's awesome, but a lot more people want it now.
What do you got, Sag?
So I'm getting that baking spice you're talking about. It's almost like I get like a little bit of like a pine cone.
Huh.
I'm getting like blackberry, blueberry.
And you have the 2014 Sugarloaf Syrah.
Yeah.
I always
get a
found
little bit of
go ahead.
Little bit of chocolate.
Hmm.
Not too much, just like a hint of it. A lot of leather, just brand new leather. Like, takes me back to like when I was a little kid and I got a brand new 8-ball jacket, leather 8-ball jacket, because I was super street.
I wish you'd break that out, dude.
Dude, I wish I still had it. I think it's probably worth some money.
Rock that jacket, maybe sing for me. It would be dynamite.
But dude, it takes me back to those days, like smelling that leather.
No, I like that because I think that we talked before last time about varietal character, right? One thing we're very conscious about is not manipulating wine. It's always kind of bothersome to me when you taste somebody's release and it's everything but the grape it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? It has all these different nuances that you go, well, that's not really typical of Syrah. Syrah to me in particular is either that, it leans towards that meaty kind of smoky side, and that sort of leathery side, what you're talking about, with a combination of what I get out of there. I usually get this kind of white pepper, almost like a white pepper spice underneath. And that, to me, Syrah's really got to fall somewhere in there. But when you over ripen it, you push the envelope way too far, you kind of get that blueberry juice kind of, it's almost a sweeter delivery. I mean, Syrah should be tannic. It should have edge. It should have power. It's a powerful, varietal. It's a rack of lamb kind of wine. And too often, and I hate to say it, Australia is guilty probably more than anyone, where a lot of Shiraz where, they're 16% alcohol and it's just super ripe and they've lost kind of backbone. The acid falls out and the wine just sort of, it's all up front and it kind of falls apart. I told you I'm jealous. I wish I had more of that Sugarloaf. That wine's been sold out for some time.
Tannins are real nice on this. I'm a big fan of tannins, so this is right up my alley. I mean, it just sucks the moisture right out of your mouth. Low acidity on the finish. There's not much of a burn at all. It's pretty smooth. I mean, this just gets you like front, mid, back, top, bottom, all over the palate. I mean, it's everywhere.
Cool. I
wish I had a steak right now, but I'm just as happy to be drinking it without one. But this is really nice. This bottle's not going to last very long.
That was a very fun vineyard. That really was. Again, funny. It goes back to I found that vineyard through Julien Fayard. It's a small world. We joke the incestuous world of wine. I mean, all the winemakers' friends kind of cross over, and you'll call a buddy and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a new particular fruit source. I was looking for a new Syrah vineyard." He had been working there, so again, Rose right next to him. I was able to taste wines he had made out of that vineyard, and then say, "Wow, it gives me an idea of what you can do with this," and we'll kind of put our take on it, our spin. But it is now Cabernet Sauvignon, so you've got one of the last. That was our last vintage of Sugarloaf.
I think I have one of those, and that's all I have, because I had a couple and I put them down though.
Yeah, I'm gonna go dig out some Magnums in somewhere and see if they're doing just fine. Just make sure.
Yeah, just
quarantine, quality kind of deal.
Yeah,
that's right. Got to get by somehow.
Yeah, that's right. Day to day.
That's what we're doing.
What's the OPC stand for on this bottle?
So that's Old Paz Cuvée. You have the 2015 Bon Cresciani. Bon Cresciani brothers, 4 brothers from Napa, have been making wine since '99. Our longest standing producers. So that is always Cab, Syrah, Malbec, Merlot, which is really interesting. So you have a Bordeaux blend with the twist of having Rhone involved, which we kind of learned years ago. Syrah is a wonderful grape to blend in with the Bordeaux grapes.
When I first poured it, I got just blueberry, a little bit of black cherry. But now that it's opened up a little bit more, I'm getting more of that anise, that sort of black licorice, and those other baking spices in there. And the first sip that I took was just bright cherry, blueberry, just right up front. But now it's mellowed out a little bit. I'm getting more of that subtleties front to back, great mouthfeel, nice full-bodied wine, and it's still pretty fruity, but I think it would stand up to any steak that you put down in front of it. It's a really, really neat wine. I'm glad that
that wine is a crowd pleaser. Always been one of the best sort of quality to price point wines we sell. I've been representing those guys since '05. So long time. I go back to the beginning of their, I've tasted all the way back to the beginning of their production, and that particular wine was a 95-point wine, not bad for, it was $50, $60 at the time. OPC is great. I think that's the kind of wine, as we had talked about Lapiche before, for anyone who saw that. It's the kind of wine that you put in a room with 25 people and everyone's happy. sort of
Everyone's
with or
gonna
without
find something
food.
they
It could
like
be,
about it. Yeah.
it could be the meal wine, or it could just be the drinking wine while you're hanging out.
I'm enjoying this just by itself right now. I mean, it's got a full-bodied mouthfeel to it, but it's not overwhelming like
No.
a heavy cab would be. It's really an interesting balance.
Yeah, super
I find it
balanced
really
wine.
nice. Yeah,
That's always been
very
kind of
nice.
the staple benchmark of their brand. And I think it's certainly built just like that, not to be too far in any one direction, right? Just a really well balanced front to back kind of wine.
Their
Which
Malbec,
14 and a half, but there's not a whole lot of burn. Yeah, it's good.
Nice.
I've got a Magnum of the 2014 OPC down in my basement.
That'll work. That'll age really well. Like I said, it's not an overripe wine, so I think it's good balance of acid. It should really hold. And next 3, 4, 5 years, that's on the money, or tomorrow, or tonight. Say, I don't give a shit.
You never know.
Just jump on
Never
it.
know.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, he's gonna crush that AJ first.
yeah, we can get to Detroit and have a little shawarma and put that 1.5 down.
Honestly, I think shawarma would be solid with it.
Right?
Good shawarma would be good across the board, right?
Yeah.
There's not much that shawarma wouldn't go with.
That's right.
We've got a place called Bucharest Grill that we like in Detroit that Segi introduced us to. That I think we could put down some shawarma and drink some wine. I think that would be fun. And Andy, the Bon Cristiani, the Malbec blows my head off.
Yeah, which that same Malbec is in this wine.
Yeah.
Is in the OPC. The Malbec's gorgeous, and that's Stagecoach. So I referenced Stagecoach. That's coming from the Stagecoach vineyard. J. Bon Cristiani of the four brothers, I would say, is sort of the lead winemaker, and he was the winemaker for Krupp Brothers for years.
Okay.
Krupp brother, Dr. Jan Krupp, was the owner of Stagecoach before he sold a few years ago the huge deal to Gallo.
Right.
And that vineyard is. So what I like to do, and you guys come back up to, remind me. I promise to take you up to Stagecoach. If you have not seen the vineyard, it is one of the most epic sights you'll ever see. It's the largest contiguous vineyard in Napa, over 1,400 acres, and it's 650 acres planted to 15 grape varietals. It's its own sort of lunar scape up on the top of Atlas Peak. It's crazy. There's like
Beautiful.
weird, high desert kind of, you're in another world when you're up on that property, and it goes on forever. You have all these microclimates within one vineyard because of elevation change and soil composition. It's sick. It really is incredible.
Definitely going to take you up on that.
So Jay was the winemaker there, so he kind of got to make the wines, and then I'd say cherry pick the blocks he wanted for the Bon Cristiani label. Not a bad thing to have to do. Oh, I'll make your wine, and I'll just sort of pick this cab and that Malbec and this, and and piece it all together.
Yeah.
What are you
Don't
sipping
worry
on,
about
Andy?
what I'm gonna do with it.
I am tasting the 2013 Mount George cab. So as I talked about before, I have 2 single vineyard cabs. There will be changes, and there have been little changes over the years, but this has been a staple for us as well. So started working with Mount George, 08, I believe, was our first vintage. The Mount George vineyard is at the base of Mount George in Coombsville. And this vineyard is only 1 acre of Cabernet. That's all it is. We do anywhere from, say, 125 to 150 cases a year from this property. That's all. So a lot of labor for very little production. It's owned by a great friend of mine, and it's just this really unique site. It's all 337 clone Cabernet, little kind of slightly little. I guess it's more valley floor, but a little sloping hillside, and it's very different from the other cabs. So Mr. Britz has Masumi, which is probably all of 1.5 to 2 miles max away from this vineyard. same clone, um, same cooperage as far as our barrel program, same growing region. You would think, how could they be such different wines? I think that's what's fun about doing side by sides with this kind of stuff. And the wines are a world apart. This is the brighter of the two, always a little more, although with age, I think I'm seeing a little more dark fruit characteristics. But it's always a very bright wine, brings a lot of beautiful spice, definitely back to that kind of higher acid style. Um, Being a 13, it's really, really kind of in the wheelhouse right now. 7 years in the bottle, or 7 years from vintage rather, and it's really integrated. Obviously it's softened up. I opened it a little while ago, and it's kind of rounded out and fleshed out a little more than it would when it's young. Um, this vineyard can be kind of finicky and tough to deal with, so it's like any vineyard, kind of the love-hate of it, right? We talked about that as well. There's sort of moments where, you taste these wines really young, and it's not there yet, and it's not there, and you keep thinking, God, is this vintage gonna, kind of come around? And then we always end up loving the Mount George after time. It just needs a little more time to kind of settle in. 13 was an incredible year. Napa it was a picture perfect year for growing. The right yield of fruit, real power driven. You got real age worthy wines out of there, real structured. Yeah, and you're still getting that classic spice, but you're just getting a more elegant, kind of softer, feel through the palate. Um, it's a wine I hadn't tasted in a while. It's kind of fun to go back because you kind of forget about even your own wines because you're not constantly having older vintages. This wine's been gone for a while out of the Wine Thief, but actually Jared Pierce, a winemaker partner, brought one over a few weeks ago. Had to deliver something. I said, what do you got at home that's interesting? Come on, bring something over. Don't show up empty-handed. And he brought this, and we were able to crack it. And I was like, wow, that wine is probably better now than it was when we sold the whole vintage kind of thing. It's always going back to it and hoping. I wonder how many sellers out there have this tucked away. Kind of wish I had another pallet or two to move.
So Andy, you were saying that you were still getting that classic spice, but it was softer. Now, do you contribute that to having opened it a little while ago and letting it breathe a little bit?
I mean, it's just a combination of that integration over time. It's just it's more lush. It's more fleshed out in the mid palate is how I would explain that. But it still has that real beautiful spice and brightness to it, and mouth-watering acid. The biggest thing I noticed about this wine is on the finish. I mean, it kicks your salivary glands in, and it's just, those are the wines for me. I'm a high acid wine drinker. That's what I lean towards. So I also love, a lot of European wine. It makes you thirsty. It makes you hungry. It's like having a beautiful San Marzano, tomato sauce, red sauce, right? You watch people eat. I liken it to watching people eat pasta. People shovel pasta with a red sauce. Notice how often people don't talk at the dinner table with like a really bright, like tomato-based sauce. And I think that's because you take a bite and it gets your salivary glands going, and you want to dive back in to have another bite. That's what wines like this do for me. Yeah. You taste it, it kicks in, and you go, ooh, you're going to go back and have that again. Whereas you have something really rich, over the top in style, it gets a little more cloying on the palate. If it's really ripe and really lush and it's all that chocolatey kind of, mouthfeel, I think it slows you down. It's like having dessert before dinner kind of thing. It's too decadent.
What's wrong with that?
You've done that before, Segi, on one of our tastings.
Segi, I built this husky thing on pork chops, not chocolate. You'd be surprised. A lot of alcohol and a lot of entrees. I'm not looking for the chocolate, the layer cake. I'm looking for the osabuco.
Hey, you can have both, man. Going back to what you were talking about, you mentioned it was a 337 clone or something like that.
337 clone.
How many different clones are there of each varietal? Or is it regulated? Are
No,
there
it
just
completely
infinite or?
totally varies based on grapes, and I'd have to look up exactly how many Cabernet, genetic, clones there are, grown, or what's prevalent, but it's pretty vast. You look at Pinot Noir, probably 40, 50 something plus clones. And you can go through each grape varietal, and it's all these kind of genetic, almost, in some way, sort of a mutation, right? What happens over time. Um, there's even some vineyards I've been in that were planted to a particular clone that they'd say, hey, that's the old Wente clone Chardonnay. And then over this long growing period, wait a second, maybe not everything is Wente. There's seems to be offshoots, like, there may be some sort of Dijon clone here. It's really interesting how it goes over time. This is a really common, you know, um, clone around here and probably throughout the Coombsville area, and throughout the valley. It's something we lean towards, the structure, the mouthfeel, the richness of the wine. Um, and, then it's all the pairing with what rootstocks are planted to pair with soil composition. So soil, rootstock, and then clone. And that kind of dictates, the flow of what's planted. But we've always really enjoyed this. So both the Masumi that David Britz has and this are both the same clone of Cabernet.
That's awesome. I think, the fun on this one in particular is that we're all four of us are drinking different wines. A little different than our dealer's choice because we're focused on, either Andy's wines or wines that he represents in some fashion. But, it's fun that we can just sort of, all riff off the uniqueness of each of these wines. The one thing in common though is they're all drinking really, really well right now.
I hope so.
Oh, this is so good. This is drinking really well. We we have Sarah planned it's like a lentil stew casserole type thing. It's a new recipe she's trying out, but I think that's going to be solid with it.
Yeah. I think you're going to find that wine's pretty versatile. Like you said, it's not so heavy as far as tannic structure that's going to dominate something.
They're there. They're definitely there, right? Like
but it's more polished.
Yeah, for sure.
Difference between more polished tannins, and those sharper, more angular, kind of astringent tannins. You're not going to find that in that wine. I think it's more seamless.
Yeah, I mean, this is continuing to evolve. We're now probably been open for an hour at this point, or close to it.
And that's the current vintage, what you're drinking.
Yeah.
So the 15 is what I'm pouring in the tasting room, or when I have a tasting room. The closed tasting room.
You mentioned it earlier, but I scored some AJ Pierce Sauvignon Blanc that should be arriving today, huh?
Did you see did you get notification?
I did. It should be arriving today. I'm pretty excited about it.
Awesome.
So, Andy, where can people get these wines? The AJ Pierce, the Boncaciani, the Perlots, the Lapiche, all those good stuff.
Those are all from us at the Wine Thief. So for anyone interested, again, they would just go to twtnapa.com, thewinethiefnapa.com, and they'll be able to check out our whole lineup, and during this process, we thought everybody needs a break, right? A lot of people were all kind of, as we said, all affected. So everything at our place at checkout, if somebody builds a little online, registration, is all 20% off, which is a pretty awesome deal for these kind of boutique wines.
What a good deal.
So
I think I have it here. I'm going to put it in the notes.
Yep, and that's how you find our stuff, as well as obviously I'm serving AJ Pierce at the Find, our new spot. So those wines are there as well. But yeah, that's really what we focused on. We when the Wine Thief was built, it seemed like the venue, right? And we haven't haven't done a ton of kind of separate from that. You know, AJ Pierce standalone. It's always been kind of with the other group of boutique wines. You know, and using that as our kind of, that's our home base. That's our spot. So
The fun thing about these wines, though, is that you absolutely, you know, in most cases, will not find these wines anywhere in your local towns, you know, on wine lists of your favorite steakhouse or whatnot. And, you know, whether you're just learning about wine or whether you're super into wine, I can almost guarantee that taking this wine and sharing it with a friend is going to be an introduction to them of a wine they've never tasted. You know, just based on the production levels of these wines.
yeah.
And that's fun, because when you're into this, and you know, we all geek out about this, and we hope that people watching, you know, enjoy us geeking out, because that's what we're doing. You know, we geek out on being able to discover something and introduce our friends to it. You know, that's the fun part of this for us.
Yeah, and that's what we've always tried to produce, right? I mean, I'm a consumer as much as anybody else, and you ask me whether I want to. I always use food as a good analogy. You know, do I want to dine at the restaurant that has 10 tables with an open kitchen where the chef touches every plate, or the one that seats, you know, 250 where the chef's not in the building when when your plate hits the table? I mean, I think we all enjoy finding things that are a little more rare and exclusive. And rarity and exclusivity don't have to, you know, doesn't have to be this correlation that costs more. I think in a lot of facets, you'll see that our list and DJ Pierce wines, I think price point again to quality are really competitive. I think sometimes people hear, oh, there's not a lot of this, it's probably too expensive, and I don't think. I think you'll find a lot more in Napa that is a lot higher priced. And that's, remember, these guys don't have the same kind of overhead, right? We're not building 15, $20 million chateaus, you know, homages to the wine. It's all about product. Everything that we spend and everything we put in, all the effort and, you know, is all based on this, what's in the bottle, having friends, you know, tasting the wines, hopefully around the country, and enjoying them. That's the passion part. It's not about the chandelier. It's a little more about the you know, about the Cabernet. Um, so it's fun. You got to be a little nuts. As we said, it's not always economic to make this stuff. But when your buddy sends you a text and says, "This is what I'm having it on Friday night at my house," it really makes it worth it. It really does. It's the coolest thing. And I'm sure you guys can relate it to your music, right? I mean, when you're performing, what's better than that, right? It doesn't always. I'm sure there's different.
This is coming pretty close.
Yeah, would you agree with what you guys do, which is amazing, which is so far from what I couldn't even understand having that talent, because I have none of it. I'm sure when you get that incredible feedback from people that are fans, right? What's better than that, right? I mean, isn't that like a driving force? Not everything is going to be the most lucrative. Some things will be better than others, but I'm assuming, you know, having these people that follow you and love what you do is kind of, it's really what it's about. It really ends up being the driving force.
Oh yeah, I mean, for us, you know, there's no better feeling on the planet than taking that stage and hearing the roar of the audience, and then, you know, giving them that show, and then afterwards hearing the countless stories of, you know, hey, I've been coming to your shows for 10 years now. I come every year with not only my mom, but my daughter and her daughter, you know, four generations of a family, all these amazing stories. That is just, you know, it makes the travel and the time away from the family, it makes it all worth it, you know. Sure. And that's what's sucked so hard about this year, is that we haven't been able to take the stage, you know, like we haven't, it's been really tough. Like I try to get an audience here in my house, and no one's having it.
It's not quite the same.
All I hear all I hear from my son all day is, "Daddy, stop singing. Daddy, stop singing."
Well, you're right, and I don't get the quite the roar of the crowd, but for me, the roar of the crowd is all these people that I know are really passionate and enjoy wine and love the whole thing, and these pictures, it's a weekly on a weekly basis. I'll get great friends that are loyal, supporters, and they send these shots, and it could be birthday. I mean, look, Fritz is drinking it on his birthday. What's better than that, right? Granted, maybe if my mug wasn't here, he'd pick something else. But I'll pretend like it was the one. But really, that has been incredible over the years. Now 13 harvests. It's like, holy shit, we've been doing this a while, and we've got the same friends who year in and year out share these. And you said something, Segi. They share them with their kids when they're old enough to drink these wines, and then it becomes this sort of family thing. Oh, my daughter loves this Cabernet you've been sending me, and we're now in quarantine as a family, and we're drinking your wine at this dinner. I mean, it's pretty cool. It really is.
Even in quarantine, right? Like if we can't take the stage, we still get the same kind of comments that people are listening to our Christmas music now to
of course,
give them some sort of spark of joy during
respite from all the rest of this stuff.
So yeah, I mean, absolutely, you're spot on that it is very, very similar. It's fun to hear those comments, and it's fun to drink this wine.
Yeah,
and I've sent you some of those texts, Andy, about drinking your wine. Actually, I think I sent one last night.
You sent one last night. I did see one last night with a little Solamente, which, I mean, honestly, that doesn't get old. Every time I get one of those, I responded pretty quickly when you sent me that. I see those and I always respond to my friends, and I'm thrilled. And usually I say, I didn't say it to you last night, but you said it first, good juice. I'm like, how's it showing? I usually ask, like, they don't necessarily, they'll say like steak dinner at my house. And I'm like, well, how's it drinking?
Yeah.
They got an opportunity to give me like real feedback. They could say, hey, it's not what I hoped it was, or, luckily most of the time, the vast majority, you get glowing reviews, but that's also part of it, right? You want to know how somebody pulled an older bottle out of their cellar. Did it hold up? When you sell these wines to your friends, there is a thought, like, if they cellar this, if it's 10 years old, like, is it worth it? Did it hold up? Did it show the way they hoped it would show? Was it worth the money? Right? There's something to that. That's, I hope that sort of integrity of brand. You're like, you don't want to hear the opposite. Yeah, the thing fell apart. I was kind of disappointed,
Right.
You're really hoping like, yeah, it killed it, and then you're doing something right, or at least in that case, you've pleased the audience. That's what it's about. Do your best.
Oh yeah. Luke and Bill and Tyler love that Solamente. Luke's especially loves that because he's a Pinot guy along with DR and Brits. And they love that Solamente, man. They talk about it.
I tell you what, I drank quite a bit of the proceeds of Solamente over the years. I could drink, particularly that 14, I could drink it daily. It doesn't get old.
It's so good.
That wine did not get old for me. Economics sometimes, like I said, the bottom line gets old sometimes, but you're like, who cares? You crack the wine and you want to share it with everybody, and especially when they're really like the wine singing, you're just like, let's go. Everyone needs to try this sucker right now. Tell me this isn't what, it's supposed to be, or it's not delivering.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of part of that too, is sort of the challenge. Your friends drink a lot of different wines and high quality wines. How does it stack up against, other wines in the group, in the price point and whatever, or wines that are 3 times the price? I always want that one. It's like open it up next to something famous. We know our brands are obscure, so it's fun when they get on the table against some big name brand. You always want to see people like, all right, tell me if it's there. Then we know we're on the right track. Yeah.
I mean, that's a good point there. Like stacking up against higher price point wines, like all of these wines stack up very well against the the big name or the higher price point wines. And I would say just get on twtnapa.com, the wine thief, and any one of these you can buy and take to a party, and you will impress
Oh
your
yeah.
wine friends. You will introduce a great new wine to people that are just learning about wine. There's no downside to any of these, honestly. They're really, really beautiful wines.
We love that, and I'll tell you what. Even the challenge of, even more so, take it to somebody who believes that they've had it all or they have it all.
Yeah,
Even more
totally.
fun. The people that are a little, say, savvier in their time of collecting wine or buying wine over the years. I like that more than anything because people assume often, well, I haven't heard of it, so how could it be that good? And I always think that's a funny question. I'm like, you've got every wine in the world on your list. You have no idea how much is out there. And I think
I didn't know you were a son.
those are the testing moments because they'll pull something out of their cellar and then you show up with something at a dinner they've never heard of. And I think those are the most shocking moments for people who go, whoa, where in the hell did that come from? Any one of these brands. That was my reaction when I moved out to Napa. I'd been in the business 8 years, running wine shops, selling stuff from all over the world. My first time where we met, Fritz, at Vintners Collective,
Yeah.
I remember when I went to interview and I had to wait like an hour because they were interviewing somebody else, my first gig out there. And I said, well, shit, I should probably taste the wines here. I don't know these brands. I read all about it, but I wanted to, and I tasted Richard Perry. I don't know if you remember the old Richard Perry Cabernet. It was the 2000. And I took a sip and I went, whoa. And I probably tried 4 wines after that. And I said, this is going to either be the loosest, interview of all flipping time. Either I get a job or I caught a really good buzz and drank amazing wine. So either way, I'm good. But I just remember that feeling of that's that exploration end where I was like, my God, I've never seen any of these. Who are these people making these boutique wines? And that was kind of the beginning of the end of just going in that direction. I'm like, these guys making a few hundred cases that are off, the beaten path. They're unbelievable in quality. Every single one just sort of hit in a row. And I went, wow, this is not what most of the country gets to try. This is not your wine shop wine. It just isn't.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do is anytime Jamie and I go out to dinner, we will bring our wine, and I love allowing the som to have a taste of what I brought.
Sure.
And it's kind of showing off, right? It's like, hey, I got
totally
something
showing up.
never heard of.
No, but it's good. It's the right way to do it. It's the way to do it.
And it's going to blow your mind, and it gets them interested. Like I like introducing people to these wines. I want people to buy these wines because they're good. Like I'm not getting a commission. I'm not getting anything other than other people to be drinking more wine.
We could work on it, brother, in Detroit. We can always work on it.
Hey, bro, let's do it.
But you can give them a hard time for, the showing off thing. But honestly, tactfully, it's the way to do it. I mean, nothing better than
I'm kidding.
I know you're busting his chops.
Anytime we bring a bottle of wine in.
Yeah, it's always nice to share it with somebody just to kind of open their eyes.
Or the som. Yeah,
and sometimes, honestly, you're running into these people that are obviously, hopefully really nice and very open to it. But sometimes I'm sure you've run into some soms or some people that feel like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll try it, And I guarantee you they go into it with this thought that, what the heck's this? And I'm not going to be impressed. I'm sure of it, just based on kind of brand recognition. Totally. And there's nothing better than kind of lighting them up a little bit. There's no hiding it, especially if they taste it in front of you. I always like that. I'm like, dude, you can say what you want, but I saw the look in your eye when you tasted that wine. Mannerisms tell you as much as anything else. You're not.
It's the look of the husband that got dragged to a Straight No Chaser show, sitting, and when we can see him changing his mind about what the show is.
Yeah, I love it. See, there you go. Guy starts tapping his foot quietly, below, like, oh, I'm kind of jiving with this whole thing, right? By the end of it, he's like, I'll buy that album. I mean, that is part of the, like we said, that's part of the fun to just open somebody up to something they might have been closed to.
Well, that etiquette stuff, you know, I honestly, I learned it by spending time with you and Steve Gage and, you know, my wine friends. And, you know, I just sort of saw how they operated. You know, anytime we would go to a restaurant, it was try this, you know,
Yeah, let the server try it, let the som try it, let the chef try it. Whoever wants, you know, send a glass to the chef. It's always something, a little piece of it, that
I'm not bringing
sharing.
that much, bro. I'm bringing one bottle. I'm not.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not giving out glasses left and
No,
right.
no, no. You pick, Segi. Whoever's the best, you know. Bring this to the guy
I
who
give a
fed
taste
me.
to the som, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'll tell a quick story. We had a bottle. Sarah and I did. We took a bottle of. It doesn't matter what the bottle was. It was a nice bottle. We took it to Hawaii a couple years ago, and it was a 2007 Bordeaux blend, and we took it to this nice restaurant on the Big Island, and we offered the server a taste. I'm not kidding. He poured himself almost a full glass. Almost a full glass. Almost.
Nice.
Like there was maybe a glass left, and he took almost the entirety of what was left. And it was decanted. So it wasn't like he couldn't tell. And so we've learned that if you're gonna share, pour it yourself. Pour it for him.
Yeah, that is that's an awkward moment.
Yeah, we're like, wait, okay.
A taste and a 6-ounce pour are very, very different things.
It was an expensive bottle too, and he got a nice, we'll say, taste.
The only thing you could say is maybe he really needed it.
Yes.
He lives and works in Hawaii. I think he's fine.
Yeah, I think he was fine.
It was it then became a chunk of his tip.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure it did.
Yeah, you're like, no, you drank half your tip.
Yeah.
It was in the glass back there.
You know, the funny thing about Soms too, one of my friends is the Som at Bavets in Las Vegas. And what they do there is they don't charge corkage, but they take a 3-ounce pour of whatever you're bringing in, and they randomly give it to someone else in the restaurant.
Huh.
So the
That's
idea
awesome.
is that you share.
They do that in Chicago too, DR. At Bavets in Chicago.
They do that at Bavets?
That's great. That's a cool concept. See, I like that kind of stuff. Go give it to table 8. That guy looks like he needs some Cabernet.
Exactly. And you have people bringing in some epic stuff. So,
yeah, of course.
And, you know, they take a little 3-ounce pour of it and they give it to someone else in the restaurant.
That's what it's supposed to be about, though. That's what this whole thing is supposed to be about.
Love that idea.
It's breaking bread. It's sharing wine. It's about camaraderie. It brings people together. It has since the beginning of time. People they get a little lost with that whole concept, but it all comes around. You know, there's plenty of times people are going to share some incredible stuff with you.
Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of sharing wine, I'm being called to dinner to share this wine. So we always say these things are going to be 20 minutes, and then in an hour into it, we're like, oh, maybe we should wrap up.
we could talk for 2 hours. That's the thing.
Totally.
You can continue to shoot the breeze on this stuff because it's fun, and you know we enjoy it, and we hope everybody else does too. Whether they're watching live or they watch it after the fact, you know, hopefully the content. You know, actually, I know the content. You know, is relevant whether they watch live or they watch it a year from now. So. It's awesome having you, Andy. Thank you.
Thanks for having me again, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And all the kind words about our, you know, the AJ Pierce and beyond that, the thief, and it definitely is what keeps it going.
Can't wait to
Wouldn't say it if it wasn't true, man.
Absolutely.
So, Andy, what I'm looking forward to when we're back up and running again is we need to, you know, I want to come into the thief in the afternoon. You know, we do a tasting, and then, you know, we just light up that kitchen in the back and we get one of those Andy Renda meals. We sit down and, you know,
let's go at it, man. I'm ready. I'm more than ready. It's been difficult for us. We're used to just hanging with the people we love and sharing wines and cooking, and, you know, it's been hard to be, as you guys know, to be cooped up. This is what we love most.
I hope to be passed out on that table behind you someday.
You know
someday
what?
soon.
You'd be somewhere on the list of people passed
Second.
out on that table, which is a good thing. We got couches too. We'll just put a couple couches together. You can spend the night. I've definitely woken up in the morning there a few times going, what in the hell happened here? Are those birds chirping?
I love it.
It can happen.
I love it.
It can happen.
Well,
But when you
cheers,
guys are,
Andy. Yeah, cheers, Andy. Happy birthday, Brits.
Thank you, guys.
cheers, brother.
Do this
Best to
again.
you. Enjoy
Cheers,
dinner
guys.
with the fam.
I'm going to take us off live here. We're stopping recording.